So many of you have requested this video and it's finally here, but I'm going to be honest with you from the start. Simply watching this video will not get you an A star in biology, and any video that claims that is lying. However, if you follow all of these 10 tips I'm going to give you, it is your best chance at getting an A star. So make sure you follow them consistently. Watch to the end of this video because you need all 10 of these tips to help you get there. First of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to MediCoach for sponsoring this video. So one way that you could help boost your grade up to that A star is with tuition. And I know one of the key reasons that people might not go for tuition is the price. Now, MediCoach is an affordable tuition platform which is online. They actually offer GCSE tuition for only £24 an hour and A-level for £27 an hour, which is significantly less than you would typically find tuition for. And because it's online, your location is not a limiting factor in getting this tuition. All the tutors at MediCoach got an A star or a 9 themselves, and they're at the top universities. And one thing that I love about what they offer is the students who will be your tutors are paired to you according to what you want to go on to study at university and which exam board you're doing, so that they can offer you the most tailored support on how to get the best grades at A-level, but also potentially help you to get into that course as well. A big focus in those tuition lessons will be on exam technique, which, as you all know, that is one of the most demanding things at A-level, and it's what prevents most students from getting those top grades. So with their help, it'll help you boost you up to those top grades. To sign up, simply visit their website or their Instagram, and I'll link that in the description below. So once you go to their website, you just click the sign up and you'll go straight to this form here. Fill in all the details so that they compare you to the most appropriate tutor for what your needs are. And as a special thank you to my subscribers, if when you sign up you add in the additional comments or how you found out about us that you found out through Miss Estrick Biology, then you will be entered into a giveaway in which you could win one free lesson. As a standard, if you do sign up, your first lesson will be an introductory lesson for free. The point being is to see if the tutor they are matching you with is a good fit, and so you can discuss what you think your key needs are so they can then plan the future lessons. Now, spaces are filling up fast with these tutors, so if you are interested, the link is in the description, so get signing up. Okay, so my top 10 tips I've come up with over the years I've been teaching. They are tried and tested to help students improve to get to that A star grade. So I've been a student myself and tried some of these out to get the top grades. I've been teaching A-level for over 10 years, and my ability in teaching was recognised when I was awarded second place in Biology Teacher of the Year in 2017. So you can trust me when I go through these tips that if you follow them consistently, it is your best chance. So let's get into it. My first tip is make sure you are using your specification. So this is one of the most valuable resources and it is free. So if you haven't already, download it, print it out and put it in your folder. You should be reading through the section that you've just learned in a lesson in your spec after every lesson, ticking it off just so you can then check that you are covering everything in your lessons, you're not missing anything if you've been off ill or you had to work from home, and also you can then tick it off again when you have revised each of those sections. So it's a good way to make sure you are covering everything you need to know. Now, the specification doesn't just tell you the theory you need to learn. It also says students should be able to, and then it gives you some bullet points which are the application of the knowledge. So it gives you hints on what the application questions will be on. It also tells you for each topic the practical skills and the math skills that link to that topic, so you can prepare in that way. You can also see the full list of the math skills that you are expected to be able to do in the exam, as well as all the required practicals, but not just that, the required apparatus and techniques. And that bit I actually think is more useful for when you are revising your practicals. So you can be as confident as possible in the actual exam, if you look at the bit in your specification on the assessment objectives, it also tells you what to expect in each of the 3 exams, or for AQA as I'm talking about. So you need to be familiar with assessment objectives. If you're not, I'll link my video up here which goes through what assessment objectives are. For paper 2 at A level, 52 to 56% of the paper, or in other words, over half of the questions, will be application. And if you didn't know that, going into paper 2, you're going to have a shock that you have so many application questions. But if you prepare yourself knowing exactly what to expect, you can tailor your revision. You can tailor the practice exam questions that you're doing. I've got on my website the assessment booklets for each skill. So you could be doing the particular booklets which are more relevant to each exam paper. My second top tip, I actually had quite a few of you ask about this on my Instagram stories, and that is, which resources should you be using? Now I'm going to go through some of my favourite resources that I do recommend, and I've linked them in the description below so you can click the link and access them. So number 1 is the Oxford University Press textbook. Now this is for AQA and this is my favourite textbook. It has all the details you know, plus a tiny bit extra so it explains it in the full context. It also has a section on math skills and practical skills. So this is definitely the best textbook in my opinion. The next book I'd recommend is the CGP Revision Guide, and make sure it is the revision guide, not the textbook, because I don't rate their textbook, but I do rate their revision guide. Again, link in the description. I've also put on my recommendation list ones to do with particular skills. So there is a math skill book, a practical skill book, and an essay skill book that I really like. So those 3 are just here, and again they are linked in the description. As well as that, there are lots of resources that you can get your hands on my website. So you can go to the resources tab, and at that point you'll be able to get your hands on these free bundles. So A-level math skills, A-level assessment which tests the theory and application, and then the A-level skills assessment bundle. So this gives you booklets of questions covering a whole range of skills like the practical skills, extended response, experimental data, and comprehension. Or if you'd rather have more enriched resources which are ready to go and going to really help you boost your grade, then head over to my shop. And the one that I'd most recommend is the full set of AQA A-level biology notes. So I've written these already for you with all of the theory detail that you need to get you the A star. I give you the key terms for each topic, I give a summary and the essay link. One huge challenge with A-level biology is the vast amount of content that you do have to remember, and it is hard. So my tip number 3 is going to be how you can remember all of that information. The only way to get that information to stick in your brain is spaced repetition. So let me explain the biology behind the spaced repetition or spaced retrieval first of all. So your brain is made up of billions of neurons, and you've probably already covered this at GCSE and A-level, but between each neuron you have a gap called a synapse, and then all of those neurons collectively will make neural pathways. Now your brain has an incredible storage capacity, meaning whatever you are told is pretty much stored up there somewhere. However, you have a very, very poor retrieval strength. So although the information is in your brain somewhere, it's very hard to actually pull it out to the front of your mind and be able to remember it. So for you to be able to remember that information, the neural pathway between that fact and being able to retrieve it has to be intact. And when you go to sleep every night, because you have limited neural pathway space, your brain will sacrifice and sever the neural pathway links that you are not using. So if you're not reviewing a piece of information regularly, your brain will deem it not necessary, sever that pathway so those neurons can then be used for another piece of information. So you need to be reviewing the information multiple times from when you've learnt it up to the exam. Otherwise, when it does come to revising for the final exam, you just have to learn that information all over again. It's much harder and much more time consuming. Research actually shows that 5 is the magic number. So from when you learn the information to your final exam, you should revisit or revise every piece of information 5 times. And that could be part of class tests, mocks, and ongoing revision as well. Being able to do all of that revision continuously is really, really hard. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of motivation and commitment. And if you're not going to see these improvements instantly, it can be really deflating and demoralizing. And that's why it can be all too easy to just stop and think, I'm just going to cram later on because that seems to be just as effective. It's not though, and you need to trust me in that it is slow progress, but by the time you get to the end, that is the only way to create these long-term memories, and you'll have the most knowledge possible going into your exam so that you will know the answers to the knowledge questions and you'll be able to retrieve that information to help you with the application questions. So my 4th tip is how to keep yourself motivated and what sort of mindset you need to have to get to those top grades. Now, motivation is really, really hard. To get an A star is incredibly challenging, and to stay motivated, when you start your A levels, that's quite easy. You've got a nice clean slate, fresh start, you're feeling all ready to go and you're motivated. But when the homework piles on, the other commitments start piling on, it's getting colder, darker, motivation drops, and that is understandable. But in order to be able to keep pushing, you need to find a way to be able to bring that motivation level back up. And the way to do that is this. You may have had a dream of what you want to be, but you need to make sure that whatever is driving your motivation, it's inner motivation, meaning it is what you want to do, not what your teachers want you to do, not what your parents want you to do. If it's not you that wants that A star to reach your dream or your goal, you won't be driven to keep working. First of all, you need to work out what is your true dream. And a dream is only achievable if you put actions in place to achieve it. And that is when a dream becomes a goal. So think about what your dream is. I'm going to be going through with you in this video all the steps to achieve that, to make it become your goal. And if ever you find that you are just lacking that motivation, you need to get a picture representing your goal, or just text. Stick it in front of you where you do your work. Put it as a background on your phone, whatever it is, so that when you are feeling like you just can't be bothered anymore, it's too hard, look at that reminder of what you are working towards to try and boost you back up to get that full motivation and continue. Now, to do the mindset, I want to bring in this here. And this is the learning pit. And everyone goes through these stages of the learning pit when they are learning. So first of all, that is when you are potentially understanding the information, but as it gets harder, you will dip down into the pit. And everyone will dip into the pit at some point for a particular bit of theory, or maybe multiple pieces of theory. It has to happen, and it does happen to everyone to learn. To get out of that pit though, you need to be struggling through questions, and it will be a struggle if it's something you're finding hard. You need to be putting in the extra effort, extra practice. You have to ask for help if you are struggling. And if you keep doing that, you do get out of the pit, you get to the end, which is where you succeed, or in other words, you now have a really good understanding and confidence of that subject. If you don't do anything about it though, that is when you stay in the pit on those lower grades and no improvements in your tests. So it is hard to get out of the pit, because you do have to put in extra effort, ask for help, and really, really push. And it might take multiple attempts of failing before you get out of the pit, but if you keep trying, you will do it. So that's what you need to remind yourselves. It is this A-level growth mindset that you will fail at some point. Everyone does, and that is fine. You just need to pick yourself up, keep trying, and if you fail again, that's fine. Keep going if you want that A star. Okay, now for my fifth recommendation, it's time to hit a controversial topic. And I might be saying things right now that you won't like to hear, I'm afraid, but please don't hate me. Wait until you hear the whole of this tip, try it, and it will work. So this tip is about managing your time. And quite often students are thinking they don't have the time for all of their work. That's right, I said it. Students are thinking they don't have the time. Like I said, please don't hate me for this, but you do have the time. And what I'm going to go through in this little bit is how you can actually manage your time and to show you just how much time you have to make sure you can cover everything. So let's start with a quiz. I'm going to show you this scale just here, and I want you to pick where you fall on the scale in terms of thinking about your average school week. How much effort do you think you put in? From the very bottom of the scale right up to 10 being maximum effort. Okay, so pick your number. Now for question 2 of the quiz. This time thinking about your average school week, how many hours outside of your lessons do you spend working? And that includes homework, revision, anything that you're doing towards your A-levels. So pick along here between 0 and 20 hours. Based on research of over 400 A-level students, the students that are getting the lower grades do about 3 hours extra per week in addition to their lessons. The students who are getting the top grades in year 12 were doing 20 hours, and in year 13, the students getting the A stars were doing 30 hours a week in addition to their lesson time. Now that 30 hours is for all of their subjects, not just for one. So if you've been thinking an A star is completely unachievable for me because I'm just not good enough, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, that is nonsense. You are not. You can get top grades if you put in the hours and the effort. Now, like I said, you probably hate me for saying you've got the time, you can do this. And you're now thinking, where on earth are 30 hours coming from? I don't have 30 hours. I have 3 or 4 A-levels. I have family commitments. I have sports or music, whatever else you might be doing. So this is where I'm now going to show you that you can fit in that time. It is tough, but I said that at the start of this video that to get an A star, it is really hard. And if you want that A star, you've got to find the time. I do have a full video and Instagram post on this, and I'll link that up here, but just to give you the brief overview. This here is the timetable that I shared with you, which is in a typical week, how you can get up to 20 or 30 hours, depending on which year group you are in. So you would need to slot into that timetable where all your lessons are. And then the best way to get up to the 20 or 30 hours is to use all of, or nearly all of, your study periods for solid work. If you do that, because most students get about 2 to 3 study periods a day, that's 10 to 15 hours straight away. So you only need to find another 5-10 hours or so across the whole week. So if you just do 2 to 3 hours each evening, you then have most of the weekend free. If you have commitments in the evenings, then juggle it around. You might need to do a bit more on one night or maybe more at the weekend. So use that timetable to find where it works for you. Now, it is unrealistic to think you can do this immediately if you're not already close to that amount of time. So if you're currently only doing 3 hours, okay, that's fine, but we need to do some improvements. And what you can do is just add an extra 2 hours for the next 2 weeks when you're at school or college. And then once you've done it for 2 weeks, it will feel like a habit. It won't feel as difficult. Then add on another 2, wait for 2 weeks, another 2, and so on until you've built it up to 20 hours if you're in year 12, 30 hours if you are in year 13. Number 6 is to take all of your class tests and mocks seriously. Now, during the pandemic, this has obviously been more important than it has ever been because your grades were based on class assessments. If we put that aside, obviously that's why they're really important in the last couple of years and potentially even this year going forward. The other reason that you should be taking them more seriously is it really improves your exam technique and your memory. And by seriously, I don't mean get worked up, stressed, and really upset if you don't get a good grade. What I mean is from the day you're told you have the test, start planning and doing your revision. So the seriousness is linked to the work you put in beforehand. So treat it as one of your proper revisits from the spaced retrieval to help you boost that grade. And you will find that every time you then come to a test or the mocks, you will find it easier because you put that effort in already. So you're not starting from zero, you already have some memory of that content. And your exam technique will be getting better and better the more you practice questions. You may also do this in class. I always do it with my students, but if not, you can do this yourself. And that is, I use what's called marks analysis. And I have a full video on marks analysis that I'll link up here for you to have a look at. But it's after every test, you look at every mark you lost, what skill was it? Then you can have a look at the tally at the end and see, is there a pattern? Are you mainly losing marks on knowledge, maths, application, whatever it might be? Because then you can tailor your revision going forwards to whatever your weakness is, that's what you spend the most time on. Now, my tip number 7 is to be practicing your exam technique just as much as you are learning the theory. So that is one of the big things I hear when I'm tutoring students that they need help with is exam technique. And as I said, paper 2 is 50% or more application questions. So it's not surprising that people need help with that section. But it's not just application, it's the critical analysis, the evaluation, long answer questions, the essay, the math skills, understanding what all the information means. Now, I have got a whole playlist on exam technique, which I'll link for you to have a look at, and I cover all of those with top tips and actual tick lists to follow when you are practicing and guidelines to help you answer those questions. So I highly recommend you follow those. Then head over to missestrick.com and get my free download of the assessment booklets, which is skill based to practice those skills. Tip number 8 is, in my opinion, the most important tip. And this is the tip you have to follow. If you're not going to follow any of the others, this is the one you have to follow if you've got any chance of getting an A star. So this tip is, to get the A star, you have to continually be putting in effort. So it's not just about working really hard at mocks or before the final exam. To get an A star, you need to be working hard the whole way through. Now, if you're already in year 13 and thinking, well, that's me stuff because I'm in year 13, I didn't work hard in year 12, do it from this point on and you still potentially have a chance of getting those top grades. So if you are serious about wanting to get that A star, that is my top tip. Put in the effort, but it has to be consistently high effort. Top tip number 9, this one will come as no surprise to you, but you have to be doing lots of past paper questions. So practice is key. You will probably know just as well as I do that the mark schemes for A-level biology are so particular. You have to say the exact phrase, the exact word that's underlined to get the mark. Sometimes you have to say multiple keywords to just get 1 mark. So you might have written a whole answer that you thought, amazing, I knew that one, smashed it, and you got 0 marks, simply because of your wording, or you didn't include the correct key point. And that is so frustrating. The only way to overcome it is practice, to know what those key phrases are, to know what those key words are. So whenever you see a particular question linked to, let's say, enzymes, you know that you have to use the phrase enzyme substrate complex somewhere. So for pretty much every topic, I could reel off all of the keywords, key phrases, and predict the mark scheme. The only reason I can do that is, like I said, I've been doing this for 10 years. So obviously I've been doing a lot more practice than you, but even just 1 year of doing this, analysing those mark schemes, I knew the patterns, I knew which exam questions were likely to come up, I knew which particular phrases were likely to be in the mark scheme. And you can get to that stage as well with practice. So make sure you have done all of the AS papers, all of the A-level papers that are available to you. I've got even more questions available for free on my website. Have a go at all of those. And when you do these questions, you need to be practicing everything. So what I mean by that is, initially it's practicing the exam technique. Use your notes, that's fine. Review the answers, note down what are the key questions and marks that commonly come up for each question. And maybe you can have a pack of flashcards, which are common questions and answers linked to each topic. Then you also need to be practicing your timing. So as you get closer to the exams, you then need to be doing your past paper questions or whole tests in timed conditions. Because paper 1 in particular for A-level biology, students often struggle with the timing. You also need to be practicing without your notes. You're then really testing your knowledge and memory as well as your understanding. So it's all of these elements that you should be practicing. So my final tip is the way you should be revising, and that is active recall. I do go into this in a lot of detail in my video on this, which I'll put in the end screen for you to click to that. I have my 7 recommendations for that. But essentially what I mean by active recall is the strategies that you are using, or the techniques, have to actively test your memory, not just test do you recognize the information. So I'll give you an example. If you're reading your notes, or if you're reading the textbook and you're looking through it thinking, oh yeah, I know that. You don't actually know if you remembered it. You just know that looking at it, you could recognize that information and maybe you understood it. If you did it the other way round though, and instead of looking at your textbook, your friend started firing off questions, you might actually realize, no, I don't remember that at all. And it's not until you look at the information that it jogs your memory. So that is what you should be doing. Active recall is testing your memory to first of all see, are there any gaps that you need to go over to improve your memory? But also testing yourself like that improves your long-term memory a lot more. So the activities are things like quizzing yourself, past paper questions, blurting, flashcards, mind maps. Those are active recall strategies, and that is what you should be doing. Rewriting notes, reading the textbook does not improve your memory. It does help you with your understanding initially, but it will not help with your memory, so don't waste time doing that for hours. Whew, so that was a little bit of a marathon there, going through those 10 top tips, and I know this is quite a long video. If you stay to the end, thank you and well done, because getting through all of those 10 top tips and following them consistently is your best chance at getting an A star. So if you have found this helpful, please like or share it with others and subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on any of the latest videos.